Well, welcome to all our viewers and our listeners this morning. It's quite chilly this morning, and I would say touch of water. I said this last week. Did I say this on Monday, Pat?
Oh, was
Uh,
that
or
this? This is
on
Monday.
Friday rather.
Yeah.
That there was a nip of autumn in the air.
You did indeed,
I'm
and there
saying it
certainly
again. There's
is.
another nip this morning.
Yeah, there certainly is. It's actually quite cold this morning.
Uh-huh. Well, we'll have to face up to the fact that as well as the political weather being bad, the literal weather will be bad. Okay, let's go with the breaking news that a unionist leader bites the dust. Doug Beattie, within the last hour or so, has announced his resignation. He
Mm.
has resigned on a point of, I guess he would say, principle. It's got to do with the fact, I think, that Robin Swan has got a place as an MP. I guess the constituency wanted, according to Professor John Tong, on Nolan this morning, that the constituency wanted to make a choice or be in control of who was going to be the candidate to replace Robin Swan. And Doug Beattie thought otherwise. He thought I think that he as the leader should have more influence. If he goes, well, he is gone. Uh, that's four leaders. Pardon my laughter. That's four leaders since
That
2012. And it'll be five if they get another one. What do you think's going on there, Pat? Are we
I think
mad?
I think the unionist parties and the death throes. When you consider that they were a big monolith at one stage,
Oh, yeah.
their word was God, and they ruled this place with a rod of iron and whatever.
Hmm.
They have now fallen way behind the DUP, and the DUP's even starting to sort of splinter a bit. So I think what many MLAs have they got? Jude, is it nine or something? I can't remember.
I
It's
can't
not very
remember.
many anyway.
Yeah.
And Doug, I always thought Doug was, you read some of his stuff from his other lives, but he always came across as fairly liberal and reasonable as a unionist leader. But
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there. His media manner was quite okay and sort of up front. But, he did three tours of duty, as they say, in
yeah,
Afghanistan. I was saying, like, earlier on, I was talking about people who were involved in horrible deeds, like, say,
mm,
Nazis in concentration camps. How did they go home to their wife and children in the evening and chat to
yeah,
them, have their supper, and so on? The same sort of thing really applies. Like, Doug Beattie has described killing an Afghanistan person with a bayonet, and exactly what it
mm,
felt like. You wonder, like, how can you sit down? How can you close your eyes at night with a thought of
mm,
that? But
yeah.
people have ways of means of doing it. Anyway, he's gone. You feel it'll be to the detriment of the Unionist Party, Pat.
Yeah, but I always thought he was one of the more reasonable people, and he seemed to have, he did make an odd effort to reach out.
Hmm.
He put it, I guess, he wasn't Jim Allister or Jimmy Bryson or all the rest of it. No, he was unionist, fair enough, and so on. But Jude, I'm struggling to sort of say what impact Doug Beattie's going will have. I don't think it's going to have very much. As I said earlier, the Unionist Party are, like a sort of the tail end of the dog, if you know what I mean. They are not, they are not major players. They haven't been in power for a long time, and they seem to be losing. You know, uh, what seems to have happened is the also Unionists got squeezed between the Alliance Party and the DUP.
Well, I think it's the parallel between them and the SDLP is too striking to avoid.
Yeah,
The time was leading up, well, the time of the Good Friday Agreement. The Ulster Unionist Party and the SDLP were the two parties of unionism and nationalism, respectively.
yeah,
Both have shrunk beyond recognition. Um,
yeah,
the SDLP has kept its leaders reasonably steady, but the UUP. I think it's another example of unionism tearing itself into small shreds. I
yeah,
really see that as part of a decline. And I sort of wonder why it is. Somebody said, they're always talking about having a united unionist party, but that they also said that they sort of hate each other so much that they can't bring themselves to do that. But I suppose that's true on every side. Like the SDLP and Sinn Féin, wouldn't be too much love lost there either.
No, no. Dude, I remember years ago, I was at a meeting in Derry, and I remember the SDLP and the official unionists had far more in common than the SDLP had with Sinn Féin. In fact, the rhetoric at the meeting was the real hatred was for Sinn Féin rather than for the official unionists. And I remember thinking, this is odd. But then remember the old one about, wasn't it Churchill?
Yeah.
Over there's the opposition and there's your enemies. And then your man says, surely you mean the other way around? He says, no. Because the opposition were the opposition, but the people who really hated you were the people, on your own side.
Yeah, yeah. I as I said to you earlier before we come on, a small earthquake, not many people killed, is a
Yeah,
comparison with Doug Beattie's decline and fall.
yeah.
It's an event, but it's not a big event. I don't think it's going
I,
to
I,
change too
don't
much
think I
here.
don't think I'll be leading the news on ITN today, or.
Yeah, yeah. They say this guy Robbie Butler, who seems a nice enough chap, will be he's the deputy leader. He'd be most likely to succeed. And I suppose they've an awful lot. They've got Mike Nesbitt and they've got Robin Swan and they have Steve Aiken. All of these are still around and
They're
many.
all former leaders as well.
They're still there. You'd
It'll
think
be Robbie Butler's turn this
a way,
time.
a way of looking at it would be, it is really a party bursting with talent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
in fact, it's just bursting.
yeah. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I think that's we.
Hey, can we move on to
Aye.
this week?
Oh, you're frozen, Pat. We'll wait till you defreeze, maybe.
Two or three things happening on the
Yeah,
international scene,
Pat.
which I
Pat,
really have to
repeat.
mention. Of it.
Can you repeat that, Pat? Because you
Have
were
you,
frozen.
yeah, yeah. What Kamala Harris, the Democrats' national convention is on, I think, in
Yeah.
Chicago today. Starts
Yeah.
today, and then there's a backdrop to that too. Anthony Blinken has gone to the Middle East, and he's saying this is the last opportunity for a real ceasefire. So the two things you can run in parallel. What do you think?
Well, I think so. It'd be a great coup, it'd be a great boost for the Democratic Party if they were able to pull off this ceasefire and, begin some sort of process of normalization. I want to go and look at that a bit more broadly, but I mean, Blinken's gone from Doha and he's in Cairo now, and he's working alongside, the US is working alongside Qatar and Egypt as negotiators. The thought crossed my mind was this. Um, when the police here, the RUC, when something would happen and something bad would happen, some RUC man do something, and there was a whole brouhaha about it, and the police would then investigate it. So you had the police investigating police.
Yeah,
And likewise, you have here over the years, you've always had this thing about, oh, well, there's two warring tribes here, and Britain is really the natural policeman, neutral policeman, natural policeman, trying to help these people come to terms. I think the US has got a brass bloody neck to be going in there and saying we're trying to bring peace to the Middle East between Gaza and Israel. For fuck's sake, that's the only word I can think of. For fuck's sake, they are the source of all the bloodshed. There's somebody wrote a column today, and they said this is really an instance of a colony, i.e., Israel, doing what the sort of center of power tells it. Not
yeah.
that they aren't willing to do it, but they are doing it. They're acting on essentially US instructions. What do you
Uh,
think about it?
no, I think we're at an inflection point. This could go either way. If there's no ceasefire, Iran has said it will retaliate for the killing of your man Ishmael, or whatever you call his name, of the
Hmm.
Hamas leader in there in Tehran. Like, he was definitely assassinated by the Israelis in Tehran. So they said that was a sort of um, uh, some sort of, what do we say, against their national interest and their national security. And there's obviously in the Arab world, it's a point of honor that there will be revenge. So
Hmm.
if the Iranians go and hit back at the Israelis for this, That brings the Iranians in, it brings in Hezbollah, and it brings in, and then do the Americans rush? They've already sent a big warship and a couple of other things to the Gulf area, and does that bring the Americans in? And like then, should do other states in the Arab states feel the need then to come in if there's something going on, between the Palestinians, the Israelis, the Iranians, and various others? Jude, where do we go from there? It's so in other words, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You say what you're going to say, because I
No,
think
no, what I think is, I agree with you totally. Blinken has said this is it. Basically, he says it's the last chance to get the hostages out, to get a ceasefire, and maybe send everybody on a better path for peace. Dude, I get them. There's been numerous claims that Netanyahu has put all sorts of conditions into these negotiations that he knows that Hezbollah, or not Hezbollah, that Hamas won't agree to. And he's doing that. Now, Jude, apparently, the big sticking point is Hamas are saying there has to be a complete withdrawal of the Israelis, and they're still saying they're not going to withdraw. So, Jude, I'd love to know how they're going to get over that.
the thing about it is they talk about negotiations between the two warring sides. There are, in my view, maybe I'm ill-informed, but really it looks to me from what I see on my TV, there's no war at all. It's Israel is attacking Gaza and killing people by the tens of thousands. I quoted that thing about colonial outpost earlier. I've discovered the quotation. It's from the Canary. Do you know that online newspaper?
They sort of labor left.
Very outspoken at times when others aren't. It describes the situation in Gaza as a catastrophe, a humanitarian crisis created in Washington and delivered by their colonial outpost in the Middle East. That's near enough to the mark. And as it happens, Una Mullally also goes on, has an article today, a very eloquent article as well. Now, she doesn't really suggest anything we can do about it, but she says it feels disgusting. It feels hopeless. It feels as though one's faith in humanity has been truly broken. And I think there's truth in that. Every night we look at the screen and there's another dozen Gaza families or Gaza people have been killed. And it just keeps on happening. I wonder about, people say things like, we've got to speak out. Should we not be acting out? I mean, shouldn't we, for all the glory that the Irish team, for example, brought to us from the Olympics, should they not have said, no, we're not going to the Olympics because you're allowing Israel into the Olympics and we detest what Israel is doing in Gaza? Should they not have done that? That would have at least got world attention.
Yeah, I don't know, Jude. What's happening? You by the way, it's not tens or 12s every night now. It's 20 and 30. Palestinians are killed. It's gone over 40,000, and they reckon could be several thousand, maybe even tens of thousands buried under the rubble.
Stick with this and tell me whether you would agree about the notion of boycotting the Olympics.
Jude, someone your point. I agree with. Ireland scared shitless to expel the Israeli ambassador because that would not go down well with the Americans.
How can they sleep? How can Simon Harris sleep at night knowing that he could do something that at least would get worldwide attention as to how Ireland feels about this slaughter?
I'll tell you what, Ireland, more than any other country in the world, probably is the beneficiary of foreign direct investment. And of that foreign direct investment, about 90% of it is American. The Americans are owned, as far as I can see, by the Jewish lobby. They are the American politicians. Name one senior politician who has condemned Israel. Not one. Not one.
Is Israel controlling? Is Israel controlling the U.S. and the other way around?
Say again?
Is Israel controlling the US?
Yeah.
As distinct from the other way around, because the Canary is saying it's Washington and its colonial outpost.
Jude, I firmly believe that Israel is calling the shots on the American foreign policy.
How can they do that?
Jude, because they're butt off. Jude, there's a friend of mine who reads a hell of a lot more about that sort of stuff than I do, and he claims that the AIPAC has assigned a bodyguard to every American senior politician. and they fund them to a great extent, and they also ensure that Israel's interests they are reminded frequently of Israel's interests. Joe Biden has had more money from APAC apparently than any other politician. And if you look at, I think David Lammy, the new foreign secretary in Britain, got a massive amount of money last year from the Israeli lobby. So, Jude, ask yourself, why are these politicians, why, like Keir Starmer and these people, Jude, there's 40,000 people dead. Why aren't they speaking out?
Well, you see, speaking to,
By the way, any criticism of Israel is always couched in the softest of soft language.
that's right. But again, I feel that this notion of speaking out in the end is kind of worthless. I think you've got to do something which will speak for itself. As I
Yeah,
say, I think it would have been. I don't think, Pat, that those direct
yeah,
foreign investment people from America are here because of they really love Ireland and we're the shamrock and all that. They're here because I think they can make money and they've got a
yeah,
foothold in the EU. Um,
yeah,
so I don't think that if Ireland was to kick out the Israeli ambassador, and God, I wish they would, uh, that the FDI people would then fold their tent and take off. The other thing is this: why has no politician in the south of Ireland or the north of Ireland, for that matter, why has none of them suggested boycotting Israeli goods?
yeah,
Or even, unions standing in front of or picketing places that sell Israeli stuff. But
yeah,
that's it's puny. It's nothing, but it's something at the same time. And yet we
yeah.
don't even bother doing that. You know,
No,
I God, in some ways we really are guilty too. I mean,
yeah,
if there was Nazis, as I said, who were going into this place and you knew they were burning and murdering Jews by the hundreds and thousands every
yeah,
day, and they were walking past you in the street, do you not think you would be forced to do something or say
yeah.
something? And why yet we let this go on? I,
Absolutely.
oh, geez.
I don't know, Jude. We're seeing this, and Jude, every night it's sickening. There's 20 and 30 Gazans killed. Like, Jude, you must ask yourself, I know what sort of people are the Israeli pilots and the people who are bombing. What's left to bomb? Like even Jude, that thing on recently where the guy, his wife had twins, and he went to register birth, and then he came back. Jude, that was they were infrared. They knew the Israelis knew what they were doing. They bombed a single apartment. So because the man's wife was a doctor and she was what taking note of the snipers were killing even children with a single bullet to the head and all that sort of stuff. And they were sending a message to him.
Well, it's not good, and I can't see that this ceasefire will come about. Are we absolutely helpless, Pat? Is there nothing we can do beyond just talk?
Well, and I suppose in the grand scale thing, little Ireland can't do a lot. These are the sort of the geographic powers in America, and what Israel seem to be able to ignore. There's no red lines for Israel or America. They don't listen to the International Court of Justice. They don't listen to the International Criminal Court. They don't listen to Amnesty. They don't listen to Medicine Sans Frontier and all the other NGOs. Dude, they're basically saying everybody else is wrong and we're right.
Mm. Yeah, I still feel, I sense that we're more after reading that article, that we're more complicit in all this than we would like to admit. We haven't. I don't know. You feel long to do something,
Yeah,
and to be honest with you, well, I don't do the shopping in our house, but I don't think we rigorously pursue a policy of making sure we don't buy Israeli goods. But there should be
yeah.
somebody leading this. Some of the union leaders or various political agitators.
As usual, I'm open to corrections, but I think the chief executive officer of Starbucks
Hmm.
resigned quite recently. Their profits have fallen considerably because of massive boycott of Starbucks because of their support for the IDF.
Oh, really? Very good. Well, that's something at least. Okay. Well, listen, will we move on to another little matter? Not a little matter, but there's an article in Irish Times today by a man called Neil Hegarty. Do you know him?
No,
He's
I don't. No, I
from
did.
Derry.
I think it was on Saturday.
Oh, it's Saturday.
Yeah,
He's obviously a Derry man. And
yeah,
he talks about coming back and looking around Derry,
Yeah.
and he talks about this body of a 10-year-old child. Was it that was found?
Yeah, it's found in the grounds of the cathedral. Like it was buried maybe 1,000 years ago or something.
And the
Yeah,
baby's milk teeth, as he says, the first
yeah, yeah,
baby teeth are still
yeah.
there. But he goes on and he talks in a very eloquent way about Derry. And what does he say? What were the main takeaways that you took from that, Pat?
Jude, you know, it was a very lyrical piece, but Jude, he didn't miss the targets at all. In fact, I took a couple of notes on him, which he says, this place, he's talking about Northern Ireland, this place never made any uh, sense, either economically or sort of politically. And he
Was
said,
he talking about the North generally?
he's talking about the North, but then he goes on, uh, but then he's referring to Derry. He says a sense of how policy. He's got a sense of how policies and decisions made elsewhere have preyed on the city for a century, starved it, blighted its daily life, and toyed with its future. Basically, he's saying Derry has been blighted by its what was a tie-up with Belfast, a tie-up that was never in Derry's interest and Derry never wanted. That basically Belfast, this Belfast centrism has sucked Derry dry. And he said basically the Ulster University, which is a very, very good point to make. He said the Ulster University, he says, are in Derry, but they're reluctantly in Derry. They don't want to be there. And he says they built a ruinously expensive campus in Belfast, which has stunted Derry's growth again, the Magee growth in Derry. And he says people just sat back and watched it all happening. And basically, he's sort of saying that, like, Derry is not whinging. He says the evidence of neglect. He says if you go around Derry, he says there are premises lying empty. There's a lot of charity shops, and he says he looks at some of the roofs and some of the. He says there's poverty, and he says he says nothing has really changed. And he says Derry is crying out, and yet you know there's a vibrancy in Derry. There's a great. The people are great. There's innovation. There's there's all sorts of things. But he says Derry has been deliberately starved. And Jim, Jude, I have no doubt about that's 100% true.
Well, yeah, I thought it was a very beautiful piece, actually, by a guy who clearly loves the city.
Yeah,
And to be honest with you, I was wondering where he left it because he obviously doesn't live in it. Um,
yeah,
but I mean, he says things like, when I come to Derry these days, I see dereliction, I hear stories of poverty, I feel an overwhelming sense of fragility. And he talks about how Derry was duly lopped from its Donegal hinterland and left to rot at
yeah,
the partition. And he says the university, as you pointed out to all these things, that the University of Ulster University, has constructed what he calls it a ruinously expensive new campus in Belfast. And I don't know about this. I remember doing an interview with the Vice Chancellor, and I
yeah,
asked, where do you get the money for this? And he said, well, if you were building a house, where would you get the money, Jude? And I said, well, I'd take out a mortgage. Well, he says, we essentially do the same. I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
mm,
That's not true. I'd say a huge amount of public money went into the building. And I
yeah,
have to also say that it's very impressive. I mean, they've
yeah,
taken a section of the centre of Belfast that was rotting, just like was
yeah,
being described for Derry. And they've built these super, sort of half skyscraper,
yeah,
all glass and concrete, and very, very elegant
yeah.
campus. But as you point out, this is at the leaving Magee in its, as this man Higgerty says,
Something's,
in its stunted form. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
that's sort of criminal, you know.
yeah,
I really felt for him, and he describes Derry so beautifully on how
yeah.
you
It's
can
a
see
very
the
lyrical
columns,
piece, isn't it?
and you can see across the Donegal, and
Uh,
he really caught the whole spirit of it.
I mean, you look, Jude, the transport links are downgraded. All the infrastructure has been channeled into Belfast. The investment has all been channeled into Belfast, or sorry, east of the Ban. Ballymena, Portadown, Belfast. Derry's been left to rot.
Well, Pat, here, the civil rights movement started in Derry,
Yeah,
right? Why can't there be somebody or some group that can essentially mount a civil rights or a city rights group to agitate, demonstrate, march, do whatever is necessary to draw attention to what's happening. If this half of what this guy says is true, half of what you say is true, then this really is criminal.
Jude, it's no doubt that what I'm saying is true. The evidence is all there. Jude, Derry has the lowest disposable income in the north. 83% of all the third level students in Northern Ireland are in Belfast. 95%, I can give you this off the top of my head, 95% of the capital spent on education, on third level education, is in Belfast. London doesn't have that anywhere near. London is about 20% of the English spend on a third level. Dublin has, I think, even about 30%, like, because there's Galway, there's Limerick, there's Cork, and whatever else, But Northern Ireland was supposed to be, 93% or 95% capital spend is in Belfast. Those are facts. You can check them out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, once again, Pat, I think maybe it's there's no point in just talking about it. Don't we really need to? Doesn't Derry really need to do something about it?
Yeah, but here's the point, Jude. I sit back and I'm sort of on the periphery. I am involved with the Derry University Group.
Yeah.
And Garvin Downey and Conal McFeely are probably the two leaders of it,
Yeah.
or the two spokesmen for it. And what amazes me is there doesn't seem to be any political sort of firestorm from the SDLP or Sinn Féin to change any of this. And I'm sort of scratching my bald patch, wondering, why are these people not speaking out? Why is this not a major issue? And I'm wondering, is it because Sinn Féin and Belfast is controlling Sinn Féin and Derry, and they're suggesting maybe it's hey, you look, we're doing so well in Belfast now that we don't want to upset the apple cart.
I really think more and more I look at it that Derry has to take some sort of action and demonstrations or agitation, public agitation, to draw attention to this.
Yeah.
If we just say, "Oh, it's awful the way they're doing it," nobody in Belfast is going to change their mind.
No.
Political parties aren't going to in any way damage their representation by listing towards Derry if most of their support is coming from Belfast. So it would seem to me that there must be some way that people of influence, people, thinkers, should be able to group together and to mount a campaign rather than just simply say this is awful and have the occasional article in the newspaper.
Yeah. I know. Now, the Derry University Group has been very this last while has been vocal, and I think it's turned over a few stones that people didn't want turned over, and I do get impressed.
What? Such as.
Oh no, Jude. There's a lot of this now. There's a sort of a publicity thing starting, and I know the university. Some people in the university authorities in Belfast are not particularly happy. The Derry University Group, I'm not saying they were the catalyst for it, but the Royal Irish Academy got together a whole host of academic people, and they did a report quite recently, and they have suggested that probably a cross-border university serving Derry and Donegal would be a very, very good idea. And the other thing might be that Derry would join with the ATU, Atlantic Technical University, and Letterkenny, which is part of the Atlantic Technical University Group, which I think has 8 campuses along the west, and that would be very, very good for Derry.
Here's the question: how many people know what you've just outlined?
Very few, I would think. Very few.
Well, there should be a way of getting the message to them. No. Should they not mind a letters campaign?
I see here's the thing. I think a lot of people think that the university issue is an elitist, that it doesn't. No, if you're wee Mrs. Doherty up in the Craigan does it affect you? Maybe your children are up and gone, but the implications of it are so. A university. Look, Jude, if you go down to Galway, my brother-in-law spent 40 years in England, and one time we were going down to Galway, and he says, "Jesus, Pat," he says, "Look at the houses, look at the cars, look at the bars, and the way people are dressed." Galway University has brought in all sorts of things: tech, startup companies, big American companies, foreign direct investment, etc., etc., etc. Jude, your man Neil Hegarty, who wrote the piece, Jude, I noticed there are a lot of people, if you go walk around the Bogside and that area of Derry, people aren't dressed in top class suits. They're maybe track suits and all the rest. Poverty is real. People don't have big paying jobs. There's no, and these are highly intelligent people. You don't, this is bullshit that these people are, these are, a lot of them are people of high, real ability and so on. So the infrastructure is not there. The employment opportunities are not there. The will to make the place economic. As Haggerty said, Derry was left to rot because of politics, and Derry was cut off from its natural hinterland. By the way, it didn't do Donegal much good either. Partition.
Yeah. Well, again, I would say that I would agree with you on all the things you said, but I think there's no point in just talking about it. There must be something can be done more. One of the things we talked about was having Garvin Downey on and having talk about it. I think that'd be a good idea, would it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Garvin and Garrett Hargan, who's written a very good book about the whole issue. It's not an easy read, but it's a well worthwhile read.
Yeah.
By the way, just before we go, we've only
5 minutes.
I don't know what you know about Kneecap, the group, but they are definitely creating a bit of a sensation, aren't they?
They are fantastic. I think one of the best things they've done is with regard to the Irish language. They have shown that it isn't something that old guys with no teeth sitting in the corner, remembering old days, that it's something beyond that, that it's just as relevant to or part of the culture of young guys like that. Young rappers, like, if you like contemporary Sex Pistols.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, but I don't know what. I think my dear missus and her friends are going to I think it's tomorrow night, and Derry. I think that's the Kneecap film is on. But they went into the Sundance Film Festival in Utah, and apparently we got rapturous reception. This film, it's Ireland's international entry for the Oscars. And apparently, what the New York Times was sort of said it was wonderfully or gleefully chaotic. I think Variety or somebody else was lavish in its praise of it as well. And when you think about it, hey, Kneecap. Remember when you think about Kneecap, but the reality of Kneecap, they are also images of the guys with balaclavas. They use images of burning police vehicles. Is it parody? Is it taking the piss? Why do people find this? It's sort of a legacy of our troubles. And how did it come? How have these subverted all that into? I don't even know what they've subverted it into.
Well, it's something very, very popular and very much admired by many people, as you say, Sundance Festival and now the Oscars coming up. You do know that Gerry Adams has a brief part in this movie.
A cameo role in it, apparently. Yeah. How did it convince Gerry? Like, does that where reality?
Why not? Would he not? Would he not say, "Well, this is these young guys expressing their views, and they're saying all sorts of disrespectful things," and so he's part of that sort of change agent. That one of the guys, by the way, one of the three guys is from Derry.
O'Doherty.
O'Doherty. Their names are fantastic. One's called what? Mohara?
Mohara. There's another
DJ Provy.
DJ Provy. And then there's other Bap something or other.
Great names. And the song that I've seen them on, you can see them on YouTube anytime you want, but the song that got me was the one where they keep repeating, "Get your Brits out, get your Brits out, get your Brits out."
But, he wasn't as great. Kemi Badenoch, who was the Tory party's Home Secretary or whatever it was. Remember, they were giving out grants to people, and she blocked the grants for Kneecap on the basis it's because they were saying "get your Brits out" and the end of the Union tour. Which by the way, I'm sure they were delighted.
Oh, exactly.
Whatever money they were going to get couldn't pay that.
Like Ed O'Brien's books being banned, manna from heaven.
I'm sure what do you call
People,
it? Remember the QC when it was Lady Chatterley's lover? Would you want your servants reading this book? You know, like
you
the
want your
parish priest burning Edna O'Brien's book. Probably would probably increase the sales from the usual one to about 1,000.
well, the opposite. Unionism isn't a bit fond of it, of the kneecap.
No,
Because the guy
but
with
I got to
the
admit, unionism doesn't get it, and to a certain extent, neither I, because I don't know what the hell they're at. Yeah,
they
yeah.
just sound good, and they also say "ooh ah up the rah" at various
Yeah.
stages.
Yeah, I see Austin Stack, who's got a thing about the provost. He's saying that they should bring in legislation in the South to ban this. In other words, if you're caught singing it, you should be jailed. God,
Good luck
he
with
should
that
go
one.
get a life.
Oh,
Uh,
good luck with that. Again, they'd be delighted if that happened.
yeah.
What more could you ask for? Okay, we're
Uh,
running out of time, Pat. We haven't even had time to offer a book reference. But if there,
no, by the way, it's supposed to be a book of the week, not two books of the week.
okay, well, keep it for Friday then. So,
Keep it
okay,
for
Pat.
Friday. All the
Okay,
best, dude.
all the
See
best.
you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye,
Thank
bye,
you.
bye,
Bye.
bye,
Bye. Bye.
bye, bye.